My name is Max. I'm with your Northwestern Alumni Association. We're so happy Anna Kate could be here for this webinar. A quick couple housekeeping items. If you have any questions now or during the presentation that you'd like to ask, you can just use that ask your question box on the bottom of the webinar dashboard or the chat. The chat is enabled, so please feel free to use either one of those. We'll keep an eye on those and try to ask as many questions as we can during the Q&A period. If you do have any technical issues during the webinar, close out the Zoom window and restart using the same registration link that we sent, or to refresh your browser. Most issues are Wi-Fi related. And finally, I will be sending out a link to the recording of this webinar, not just to the folks that are here, but to anybody who registered. And we'll send out a post-event survey. Please do fill that out. It helps us a ton put together lots of events like this and be helpful. So we appreciate you all being here. And I think I saw a hand raised. So we can't have people go off camera, but please do feel free to use the chat if you have a question for us as well. So I am going to now introduce Anna Kate Anderson. She is an Evanston-based entrepreneur and founder of the Amplified Voice, where she helps ambitious executives and consultants strategically position their leadership through expert writing and personal branding. By combining high-impact storytelling with unique process, she crafts resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and messaging that make her clients' value impossible to ignore. With over 7 years in business and more than 500 clients served, she has helped leaders land roles with significant pay increases, build consulting businesses, and elevate their visibility across industries. Anna Kate also provides LinkedIn training for businesses and delivers modern outplacement solutions designed for today's competitive landscape. I wish we could be together for this, Anna Kate. We're like 2 miles apart in Evanston, but we're both in our phone rooms. But I'm so
Me
happy to
too.
have you back. You did such an amazing presentation. If anybody was at that first presentation from all the way back in 2020, and we're thrilled to have you back. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Max. Yeah, that was really fun. I think this is actually like my fourth Northwestern alumni webinar. So I am thrilled to be here with you all today. And thank you so much again for the introduction, Max. So today we are here to talk about how to elevate your leadership and build a magnetic personal brand on LinkedIn. And I've been using LinkedIn for a long time, but for the past 8 years in my business, I've been helping others to build their LinkedIn profile. And then now, more recently, build a strategy about how to use LinkedIn to get what you want from your career, from your consulting business, if you're starting up a business, all of those things. And I really am a LinkedIn evangelist. They really should be paying me because it really is the place to be, especially if you want to organically grow, right? And so by organically, I mean not paying for ads. There's still a huge possibility on LinkedIn, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So today we're going to talk about defining your brand on LinkedIn, how to do that. And then I'm going to talk to you about the ways to be active on LinkedIn and to, build your profile, build your network, and build opportunities in, because the bigger you grow your network, the more specific you are about who you are, what you want next, and your impact, the more those opportunities are going to come to you, whether those are new jobs or new clients. So I wanted to first just kind of preface the talk, and we'll have lots of time for Q&A at the end. And I'm also happy to receive questions through LinkedIn, so feel free to DM me there. The first thing I wanted to talk about was why LinkedIn. And I promise not to belabor this point, because if you registered for this talk, then you probably understand why it's important to be there, right? But bottom line, LinkedIn is growing every day. It's huge. There are 1 billion members now. But the wildest thing that I think not everybody knows is that only 1% of the members post. So you have this incredibly huge organic opportunity on LinkedIn, whereas you don't really have that on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as much, right? So especially if you're, have a 9-to-5 job and you're wanting to, build your profile there, LinkedIn is absolutely the best place. So the other thing that I wanted to tell you about is that 98% of the Fortune 500 CEOs who are on LinkedIn, who have a profile, post on LinkedIn. And that's growing every year by 23%, which is big, right? So CEOs are seeing that it's a place where they can craft their brand, where they can show up, tell people what's actually happening, what's happening behind the scenes. Obviously big, Fortune 500 companies, but also organizations. So I've helped a lot of nonprofits build their donor opportunities there. And it really is a place that you can show up and make a huge difference, right? So I also wanted to point out that the CEOs growing there means that it's not just them, right? It's their whole comms team, it's their whole marketing team, right? So those people in the background are telling them, you've got to show up here. So more and more people are seeing that it's absolutely necessary to just like get your brand out there now. So the first thing we're going to talk about is kind of defining your brand. And when you decide how you want to show up on LinkedIn, the most important thing is to figure out kind of a few areas that you want to show up in. Before you do that, you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is optimized, right? So what I mean by that is that before you start posting, you want to make sure that your headline, your about section, your professional experience section, that all of those are clearly showing who you are, what you do, and what your impact is. And it can be short. It doesn't have to be long, right? But you want it to be clear and concise so that as you get active and start posting or commenting, enacting some of the strategy, that when people go to view your profile, they're seeing what you want them to see. You also want to have a clear way for people to reach out to you. So I use, you can have a link in your header, and I have my call link so that people can immediately book a free call with me to talk with me about what services of mine they may need. But you can have your email there, any way that people can contact you is great. I don't think you're going to get a ton of spam. I'm out there all the time, and I don't get a ton of spam like that. So I don't think you're going to get a ton, but if you do, you can always walk it back. So you want to make sure that that profile is optimized first. It is really important to have a good profile picture and a good background photo. And the background photo, I'll switch over to LinkedIn, just look at my profile for a second. So I have this very simple, custom background photo that I created in Canva. And it's very easy to create in Canva. If there are any designers on the call, I know you hate Canva, I'm sorry. But they have an actual LinkedIn banner that you can use in order to create this so that you know that it'll fit appropriately. But any photo you put back there, as long as it fits with your brand well, meaning like a picture of you with your team, a picture of you, doing some volunteer work, a picture of you, feel free to post your family if you feel like that's, something you want to put out there. Anything that kind of shows who you are is much more powerful than things that we see all the time, which are like a cityscape or, a beautiful photo from vacation or something, but something that you're not in. So if you can put yourself in that photo, create something unique on Canva. You can also use something from your company. That's absolutely fine. And it's nice because it looks very standardized and it shows, this is who you are. And then just to give you a little bit of information about optimizing the profile, of course, my profile is about helping people. My headline is about helping people. You want your headline to really say who you are and what you do. If you are in a 9 to 5 role, if you're, moving up the ladder, you want that your job title there. And the reason is because a recruiter who's looking for a director is going to search for a director. And the headline is the highest weighted part of your profile. The next highest weighted part of your profile is your about section. And so you're absolutely going to want to have there exactly what you do, some of your impact, and how to get in touch with you, right? So you can just tell people to DM you on LinkedIn if you want. But having an optimized profile is really important before you start to get into the strategy, right? Okay, so I talked to you about the about section. So now we're going to talk about strategic LinkedIn activity. So what I want you to do, let me go straight to here. So when you focus your LinkedIn presence, you're going to identify 3 key posting areas. And this is what I walk through with executives. So we figure out kind of 3 areas that they want to post in. Why 3? You could do 3, you could do 5. Most people are not going to be sitting there coming up with content every day, right? And I will be talking about consistency and why that's so important, but consistency can be 1 time a week. That's fine. But you want to come up with 3 areas that you kind of show up in on LinkedIn to avoid diffusing your brand, right? Diluting your brand. So it just makes it easier for you to show up in those 3 areas. So um, I have some kind of ideas for key areas for people. So a lot of times when I'm, working with someone, we think about these kind of buckets, right? And so buckets for those areas that you want to show up in might be expertise and insights. I've got some examples here from a marketing director, a CFO, and a nonprofit CEO. Behind the scenes and leadership, and then values and vision are kind of why you do what you do. So these don't have to be your areas, but if you define these in advance, it makes it easier to show up on LinkedIn, and it also helps you to comment. And we're going to talk about commenting and why that's so important. But defining these kind of 3 areas is really great. So, I would say that my 3 areas are branding, writing, like, making sure that things are concise, but that convey meaning and are thorough. And then I would say that one of my key areas is women in the workplace, right? And so the women in the workplace one is important because it helps me to show up where my clients are. 80% of my clients are women. So it helps me to show up where they're showing up, and it helps me to give them the message that they're looking for, right? So as you're thinking about these 3 key areas, you also want to think about, how do I want to show up? Who do I want to be found by? And what areas are they showing up in, right? So especially as you're moving up the ladder at work, you're thinking about, where do higher level people show up on LinkedIn? What are they talking about? And how can I contribute to that conversation? So I also wrote a slide for consultants and business owners. I'm hoping there are some consultants and business owners on the call. And I love working with consultants to help them build their LinkedIn, because I built my whole business there. And really, getting referrals there, showing that I know what I'm doing, that is, LinkedIn is really the place to do that. So, just a few ideas about what you can post about when you're a consultant or a business owner. I'm happy to get questions on that. And I've worked with some business owners who are really very far outside my own experience, and I think that's fun because it's different and it's interesting. And so you know, when you start to post on LinkedIn and start to comment, more and more ideas will come to you, especially as you connect with people and grow your network and all of that. So I do want to talk about commenting, but really quickly, I wanted to go back to the strategic LinkedIn activity. So once you have defined your areas that you want to post in, and they can change, right? But you are trying to define your brand. And if you stay within those areas, at least at first, you're going to have the right people coming to you and finding you. And that's what you want ultimately, right? So this is what you're going to do once you've defined those areas. You're going to find and engage with influencers and companies, right? So you're going to think about, who is someone who's posting a lot on LinkedIn, a thought leader in the area that you're in? What are the companies that are posting? Who are their leaders? It doesn't have to be the CEO, right? If there's somebody in a high level role or middle level role, whoever, at a company you're interested in, and they're posting a lot on LinkedIn, engage with their posts. Like, that makes a difference. I have seen it so many times. So engaging through comments will boost your visibility so much. So one thing I tell people is that likes mean nothing. So all those responses, reactions, they really don't do anything for you with regard to the algorithm, right? The comments are what boost you in the algorithm, get more eyes on your profile, and it's really starting a conversation with the people that you want to be in conversation with. Um, Posting high value content, really important, right? So you're giving behind the scenes information about how you made a decision. You can keep this vague, right? Like you don't have to talk about, proprietary company information on LinkedIn, of course. You can talk about the process. And that's really what people want to hear about on LinkedIn. What I find is that the posts that get the most engagement when I'm working with people are kind of how to post. So anything about how you made a decision, how you changed a process, how you improved something, how you created a product, how you marketed that product. People want to understand, how you get buy-in, how you build a team, how you keep everyone rowing in the same direction, especially if you have something that people don't hear all the time. But even if it is something that people hear all the time, putting yourself out there in comments and posts is going to boost you into that 1% of the users of LinkedIn who are getting eyes on their profile, not just from recruiters, hiring managers, but consultants, CEOs, all of that stuff, right? Growing your network so that the opportunities come to you. So connecting with the right people. And what I mean by the right people, it means that those people are people who are going to help you and who you can help, right? One of the biggest pieces of networking, like I tell people who hate networking, hate that term, it's really just relationship building, right? So it's really just relationship building. And the people who have a really hard time with it, I tell them to think of who they can help first, right? Like, are there people out there, colleagues, junior colleagues, who you can connect with and help, answer questions, have a 15-minute coffee, Zoom coffee with someone, answer questions about, what it's like to be in your role. And then that will make you feel more comfortable doing that with people that you're interested in. Right. So I have found networking on LinkedIn to be fairly easy. And I think that people generally accept connection requests unless they're just never on LinkedIn. So I never let it bother me if someone doesn't accept it. I just assume that they're not on LinkedIn that much or they're just not interested, and that's, not a big deal. And so, growing your network, even just a little, is going to show you so many more opportunities, more connections, all of that. I'd be happy to show you an example of that if you guys want to see an example kind of towards the end. And then here I did want to mention consistency. So, no one is an expert on the LinkedIn algorithm, and algorithms change all the time, right? So we had a big LinkedIn algorithm change like maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and you may have noticed this, but that's why a lot of stuff is showing up in your feed really late. So like you'll see posts from 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yesterday I saw a happy Halloween post and I was like, this is why this algorithm is not working. But you just have to roll with it if you're on one of these platforms, right? Especially if you're a consultant like me, that's why you need to have your email list too and your blog. You need to have your own platform, but LinkedIn can be a super helpful platform for networking, etc. So in order to roll with the algorithm, the number one thing that you can do is be consistent, because the algorithm is going to reward you when you show up consistently, and it can kind of expect your posts or comments. So if you want to post every day, great, but post every day. It's even better if you can post at the same time every day. If you only want to post once a week, that's absolutely fine, but remember to post once a week. Put it on your calendar and make sure it gets done. If you're commenting, I suggest people who are looking for a new role to comment 10 to 15 times a week. And really in this job market, that's kind of like the bare minimum to get noticed, right? And we want comments that are, germane to what's going on. So not just like a great article, right? So you can start there if you want, if you feel uncomfortable. But eventually we want to get into comments that really showcase your expertise, your experience, who you are connected with, all of those things. Okay, so now let's skip ahead. I feel like I'm going a little fast, but we will have lots of time for questions. So I did want to say this one thing for consultants specifically and businesses, business owners who might be here. you cannot do all of your posting from your business page. Business pages on LinkedIn, like a lot of other platforms, have very little flexibility in what they can do. And then we also just know from research that people want to connect with a person, right? Like that's why we see the growth of the Fortune 500 CEOs on LinkedIn, right? Like we want to know who is behind the brand. So when I'm talking about posting, if you have a consultancy, if you have a business, I'm talking about posting with your personal profile. It is important to also have a business page and you can post there, absolutely, but you're going to get 10 times the return on what you do from your personal profile as you do from that business page because it just is able to do more, comment on more things, all of that. And I'm happy to answer questions about that. So we talked about identifying the three key areas. So I wanted to talk a little bit about commenting and why it's so important. So this is a comment, this screenshot is from a comment that I made, excuse me. And it was the first comment on someone who works at LinkedIn and posts a lot about the job market and how to find a job. His name's Andrew Seaman. And it was kind of lucky for me to see his post and get one of the first comments on there. But what I wanted you to pay close attention to is that I only ever got one reaction to my comment, but I got 2,000 impressions, and that was within hours of posting that comment. And then about 15 people followed me within that time. So I got 15 new followers, and someone booked a call. So that is really how powerful commenting is. You will also know how powerful commenting is when I tell you that I post every day. Someone doesn't schedule a call every day, but I post every day, right? Because I want to share insights, I want to share wins from my clients, and I'm really just putting out there what I'm doing so that when people who may see me from a comment go and view my activity, they think, oh, okay, she does know what she's talking about, right? So that's what I wanted to show you about commenting. One thing I love to help people with is when we identify where you should be commenting, it is wild because there are so many high level people with 30,000 followers, 50,000 followers who post and get almost no comments. So sometimes they get a bunch of comments, right? And it's fine to add your comment, even if there's already 900 comments, right? That's fine. Go ahead. But if you can find someone who you know is in the sphere that you want to be in, and then comment on their post where they don't have a lot of comments, you are going to get so many eyes on your profile, right? So, and that's not to scare you. I mean, that's a good thing, right? Because if you've optimized your profile and your information is there and it says what you do and what you want to do next, then all of that, attention is a good thing. So that's my thing about commenting. So we've talked about posting, we've talked about commenting. Comments are greater than posts. So the bottom line is that comments get more eyes on your profile than your own posts. And that has been true actually for a few years. So when you comment, the tip is to add value. So, yes, it's great to post like a controversial comment. I wouldn't go after someone. I do see that, but I wouldn't go after someone who you don't know in a comment. But adding value or context, and even telling a short story in a comment is really helpful. And everyone who's posting really appreciates comments. Comments, boost your content. And you actually, when you're posting, if you get a comment, you have to reply to that comment. So if you're posting and someone comments on your post, you need to reply to that post, not just click like or something like that. You need to actually reply because the algorithm will actually push your post down if you don't respond to comments. Because the bottom line is that LinkedIn wants dialogue, right? They want people to be connecting, talking about things, going back and forth. So the more comments and responses you have on a post, the better. And it's also great to ask a question, mostly because that forces a response, right? So if you post and someone comments, respond and ask them a question because that'll get them to respond again, right? So I'm not, all of this probably sounds like I'm saying you need to spend 10 hours on LinkedIn a week. I am not saying that. I am saying when you're scrolling, at night or whatever, even for 10 or 15 minutes, actually comment, actually stop and comment on things or respond to comments on things, on posts, and you really will see more and more eyes on your profile. And people do usually ask this, so I'm going to insert this. You do need a premium profile to be able to see everyone who views your profile. I'm pretty sure that's still true. I've had a premium account for a long time. It's worth it for me because I do want to see who views my profile. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to see if their high school boyfriend looked them up on LinkedIn. Haha. But really I want to see who's looking at me, especially if I've reached out to someone. Um, I want to make sure that, I'm following up with people or that if people click on me a few times, I'm reaching out because sometimes people just are afraid to reach out, right? And then the other thing that's really nice with the premium profile, and again, LinkedIn should be paying me, right, is that you have in-mail, so you can send messages without being connected to people. Um, oh, so did also want to talk about what to comment on. So this is a great tip. I'm excited to tell you this. So one thing that I love about LinkedIn is that you can go to someone else's profile and see who they're following, right? So whatever influencers, what are we calling LinkedIn influencers now? Top voices, they you'll see who people are following down at the very bottom of their profile, right? And so a great thing to do is to think about where do you want to be next, right? Like in that C-suite, where are you looking to be next? Go to some people in other companies, scroll down their profile and see who they're following because that's where they're showing up and those are the posts that they see. So it's actually really easy to do kind of like market research on LinkedIn because all you have to do is say, who do I want to see me and where are they showing up? And you can see it immediately. So I noted at the end of this to set a goal for yourself, like to set a goal about commenting, 3 thoughtful comments or something like that. I would say a day, but even a week is going to get more people on your profile. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say is, this is more for business owners, but you do want to make sure that what you're doing on LinkedIn is making a difference. So if you're starting to post and comment and it's not making much of a difference, you may need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and reconfigure things. It's also great to go to other people's profiles who have similar roles as you, who are, and engage with them and see kind of how people are doing things. But in general, if you get active, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this, hundreds, if you get more active on LinkedIn, you're going to see a return on whatever time you spend there. So I did want to show you, this is a screenshot, I think from either yesterday or earlier today. So this is a screenshot because I have premium, it'll tell me my content performance. And don't worry that it's down 3.6% over the last 7 days. So, and this is cumulative. You can look at it like day by day. But it'll give you the impressions, it'll show you how you're doing. I haven't been posting as much, and part of this was the weekend, so that's part of why that looks like that. But it is nice because you can immediately see how your posts are doing, how your profile views are doing, things like that. And especially for people who want to draw people to their profile, that can be really helpful. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm pretty sure I only have one slide on this, is growing your network on LinkedIn. And if you're rolling your eyes, that's okay. So, I do feel like some people feel like LinkedIn has kind of jumped the shark, right? Like it's over, like we're over LinkedIn. And it is crazy because if you are one of the 1% of people who show up there, post there, comment there, you're going to see the same people there. And that can get annoying, right? Like I understand that. I'm not on there all day, every day. I definitely take my breaks. And even with, a huge network and following a lot of different people, I do still see a lot of stuff from the same people. But I think the bottom line in what I've seen is that it can just make such an incredible the minimum amount that you give can make such an incredible difference. And when you grow your network thoughtfully, LinkedIn will reward you for that in the algorithm, but you will also start to see a better feed, right? So when you log in, you're not going to just see stuff that you don't care about. The more you connect thoughtfully about with people who you're interested in what they do, you're interested in their company, you're interested in joining their nonprofit board, anything like that, you're interested in AI, in, product management, all those things. And so you're going after those things. All of that will help you see more opportunities in your feed, and your feed will just become a lot more interesting. So one of the things I've actually done for executives is curate their feed. So it's like go through and follow people, unfollow people, make sure that their feed is like actually showing them what they want to see and things that they want to comment on and are interested in versus stuff that you're just going to scroll right on by. At the same time, I will say, even if your posts get no activity or engagement, people are still seeing it and people are still thinking of you, right? So it's good to like stay in people's minds, especially if you're searching for a job right now. But just know, just like I showed you with that comment that had 2,000 impressions but only one reaction, and then I got all the followers that I got from that did not react to the comment, but they absolutely went to my profile and followed me. So things are happening in the background, even if when you post and comment, it's not immediate, right? It's not like huge numbers immediately. And then, of course, I included diversifying your network because following voices outside of immediately what you do is going to grow your network tenfold, right? So, like commenting in a place where you've never commented before, you don't know anyone, is really great because all of those people can get interested in you, right? So that was pretty much it. I did want to give you guys an offer. I have 10% off. Anybody wants to book a strategy call with me. And you can DM me on LinkedIn for that. I'm going to force you to get on LinkedIn and actually find me and DM me. But I'm just so happy to be here with you guys today. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but I'm just in a really dark room today and I have very dark hair, which is why I look like a floating head right now. But I'm so glad to have been here, and I love speaking with the Alumni Association and Max. Thank you so much for having me.
And Kate, this is fantastic as usual. Thank you so much. And we've got tons of questions, so we've got plenty of time. Again, if you've got your hand raised, please feel free to put that question in the Q&A box or the chat, because we're not able to answer questions with the hand raised function. So I'm just going to go chronologically from the first people that commented. We got a comment here. If you have a business page, can you post to your business page, then repost from your personal profile with additional commentary?
Yeah,
Question.
so that's a great question. And I'm going to answer these not super quickly, but I'm not going to go on and on so we can get to more. But so that is fine. However, when you repost any post, if you type words above it, LinkedIn pushes those things down. It's actually much better to just click repost and not not comment on something. Those things, they push that down, which doesn't make any sense. Like you would think that they would want people to comment on the post and introduce why you are reposting this post, but those things get pushed down. So I would say it's okay to do that. It's not a great strategy to do that.
We have this. This wasn't a question, but I wanted to read this comment out for everyone because I thought it was a nice comment. Robert put that at the bottom of a profile, he's browsed people's groups to give him ideas of what groups he might like to join. It's a great tip.
Absolutely. Groups are tough because the only group information that's going to show up in your feed are people you're directly connected with who have posted in that group. So what I do is every like Friday, I will go to my groups and see what people have posted and try to be active in there. And there are some really great groups on LinkedIn. It's very tough to keep them going, Max, as you may know. It's tough to get people to so I will say, go be active in the Northwestern Alumni group. There are like tens of thousands of people there, especially if you're searching for a job. Please go post there. If you post about looking for a job, you need to say not just the role you're looking for, but your impact in your last role, like what you do. Don't just say I'm looking for this. Say I'm interested in these roles. This was my last role. Here's my impact. Please connect. Okay. But yeah, please go be active in the alumni group. It's really great. Thanks to Max.
Thank you. I promise this was not a planned plug, but that was like you could not have done my job better for me. I am one of the administrators for that group, and I think we're right around 50,000 right now, which is awesome. So we've got a lot of updates. We send out content straight from the Alumni Association, and it's just a lot of fun. So like she said, if you're not in the group, put in a request. I'll get you approved right after this meeting. So a couple more questions here. Someone asks, how do you turn profile views to real connections both on LinkedIn and off the platform?
That's a great question. So usually if I see someone viewed my profile, um, who I would like to work with, um, I will, most of the time, the kind of gentlest way to do this is to follow them first. And if they're posting at all, then to interact with their posts. Then once you've interacted a little bit, or if they just don't post at all or comment at all or any of that, then you can, send them a message. You can do the connection request, or if you have InMail, you can just send a message and just don't say, I saw you viewed my profile, right? So you just say, what I say is, hi, I'm Anna Kate, and I'd love to connect. Let me know if I can be of help. And I would say probably it's not that often, but I would say probably about 30% of the time people immediately say yes, like I need help, or let's set up a call. And it's not always a fit, but it's good that I reached out. But then also that sets you up for them to contact you later, because they'll have you in their recent messages. The other thing about connecting with people, it's great when people follow you, and you can toggle that on or off on LinkedIn if you want. Like you can have the link be follow or connect. It doesn't really matter that much. But when you connect with someone, it's nice because then you will see their posts and their activity, right? So instead of them just following you, you might want to connect, right? So that you'll start to kind of build that relationship. And then, if people are, I will, if you want to connect with someone, I think it's great, especially if you're, job searching, or you're just, networking, trying to build your network and move up, in your industry. A great ask is like, I would love to ask you a few questions about, your typical day, because I'm really interested in what you do. Would you have 15 minutes for a Zoom? Or if you want to meet in person, could I buy you a cup of coffee? I mean, I think that's a nice offer, and it's a low level offer. But yeah, and I do encourage people to actually reach out and ask, because most people don't. And all someone can say is no. So, if they say no, then you don't know what's going on in their life. And, maybe they just truly cannot do it, right? But it's not about you, it's about them. So I really do, it is a great thing to just ask and connect with people. That's how you build your network.
Got another question. Someone says, if you are based internationally, for example, Senegal, and you want to grow your U.S. presence, what are ways to get the attention of U.S. based folks?
So I will say I have less experience with this, with like helping people move internationally. But I would say the number one thing you can do is follow the companies that you're interested in. So follow the companies and the leadership of those companies that you're interested in. And then you can see all of that on LinkedIn, and then comment on their posts, especially people who are active on LinkedIn. Join groups, right, that are interested in those sort of industries and the roles and the job titles. And then start to post some and comment some showing, exactly what you want to do. And it's okay to say exactly what you want to do. Like if you want to move to the US or if you want to work for a US company, say that outright. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. And it will set you apart from other people just being clear and concise about what you want next. I hope that was helpful.
This is a great question. Should your headline be your current job title or something more general slash aspirational or aligned with the job that you want?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So some people will put in their headline the job that they want next. I don't usually advise that people do that because my concern is about it being a red flag with your current employer, right? I've literally never had someone come back to me and say, we updated my profile and my employer said, this is, are you looking or something like that. But it is important to have a job title in that headline. So if you're a manager, if you're a senior manager, director, VP, whatever you are, it's important to have that in your headline. Where I would put what you want to do next is in the about section, right? And you can be kind of sneaky about it. Like you can say, that you work closely with or collaborate with, VP of this, director of this. Then you've got those words in your about section as keywords, even though you haven't held those titles yet. Those words are still there. So a recruiter searching, it's going to show up in their search, right? You can also use something that just says, seeking, if you're looking, then you can be very clear and out there and just say, I'm seeking these roles in your about section. And I would put the both in your headline and your about section, like, you know, director, whatever it is. But you can also say, I fulfill these roles, right? So a lot of us have done a variety of things. You may be applying for roles in different industries. You may not care exactly what title you have, but yeah, it is very good to list the titles. The other thing about the headline is that you want to say what you do. So I help is a good way to do that. A lot of consultants and business owners do that, like increased revenue by XYZ or improve this process and cut costs by blah, blah, blah. Like that is going to, stand out headline. So as much of those as you can. Knowing that the headline and the about section are the highest weighted portions of the profile when people are searching.
Question here from someone who says, I get a decent amount of impressions and a fair amount of recruiters looking at my profile, but no direct outreach from those recruiters. Is there anything else I can do to become more attractive to recruiters?
So the job market is a mess right now. I probably don't need to tell anyone that, right? The job market is incredibly tough right now. What I am seeing make a difference for people is being active. So I actually just read a recruiter post yesterday, and this is one recruiter. So this is anecdotal, right? But I read a recruiter post yesterday that said, if I go to your profile and it shows up in my search, but then there's zero activity, there's nothing I can tell about what you do, right? So I do suggest that people use all of the bullets from their resume in the professional experience section, right? Like fill in that professional experience section, make sure that you have impact statements there, make sure that you're saying what the result of your work is. And then be active. I mean, you being active really matters. It really does. And I kind of wish it didn't. It shouldn't, but it will help. I had a client who got recruited 2 years ago to a very high level role. and it was solely based off of LinkedIn activity. And all he was posting were pictures of conferences he was going to. I mean, that was really it. And I mean, there was some great, information like I went to this conference, I learned this, I gave a talk about this, I connected with these people. But it wasn't, rocket science, right? Like it doesn't have to be so deep. And you may know this, but posts with photos do perform better in the algorithm. And yes, they are promoting video, but with what I've seen, it's not so great yet. So if you want to do videos, great. I would also do some like actual comments.
This is a perfect dovetail into the next question. If you are creating your own post, does it diminish your impressions if you have content slash verbiage above a graphic?
No. So as long as when you're creating it, you write the post and then you click the like picture or graph or whatever. No, those are great. It used to be that the carousels were like the highest performing posts for a while, and then everybody was doing carousels, and now they've like, of course they've pushed those down. The other thing I will say though, and I'm glad this like tripped my thinking about this, is do not use this is my advice, take it with a grain of salt, is that do not use those third party things that software that will make your post have like bold and italicized language. And someone disagreed with me about this in a communications consultants group the other day, and or didn't disagree, but just was like questioning whether this was really true. And so I searched and I found someone who had bold italicized words in their post, and I searched for the exact phrase that they used, and we're connected, and that post didn't come up. And then I actually copied it from the post, put it in the search in bold and italicized language, and it came up. So nobody's searching in bold or italicized fonts, right? So I would not use those because they're not going to show up in search. Um, LinkedIn wants you to do everything natively, right? Like within their. That's why people still put, some links and comments instead of putting the link in the post. I think it's fine to put the link in the post as long as you're not doing that every single post, right? I put the link in the post when that's really what I want people to see.
So we've got some great questions here from another person. They had a couple. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to pick one of these. And I'm going to go with the fourth one because I think this goes for something we haven't talked about yet. Do you recommend consultants or business owners use Sales Navigator? What's the best way to get up to speed on how to use it to maximum advantage?
Yeah. So this person, feel free to DM me because I can give you a little bit more specific information. I have not used Sales Navigator and I haven't needed to. So I think if you're building something really huge, it's great. I'm a one-person shop, and if I use Sales Navigator, I think I would have more than I could handle, right? So if that's what you want, if you want more than you can handle, and I know that's, explosive growth is what so many people want. Yes, absolutely. And Samantha McKenna is the person to follow to talk, because she used to be inside of, like, she worked for LinkedIn, and now she has a business basically teaching people how to use Sales Navigator. So if you're not following Samantha McKenna, you should be following her. Great information about Sales Navigator.
Thank you for that. And Anna Kate, and for everybody here, just a quick reminder, we'll be sending out all kinds of different resources for people. I'm going to try to get to everybody's question if I can, but if I don't, and you've got a question, feel free to reach out to us or use those resources that we include in the post event. Question from someone here. Any recommendations for someone who's unsure what their personal brand is?
Yeah, schedule a session with me. No, really. So, that's perfectly normal. That's totally normal, right? I worked for 15 years in higher education and loved it. Max, I loved it. But you know, I didn't feel like I really hit on like me and what I bring until I started doing this on my own. But you It's easier than you think. It sounds hard, but it's easier than you think, right? And so the number one question you should ask yourself is, what am I interested in? Like even at work, it's fine to have a job that just pays the bills, right? That you're not super passionate about. That is fine. But when do you get interested at work, right? If you're not interested at all at work, what are you interested in outside of work? And what does that say about you, and what you care about? So there are so many ways to come at it, but and your personal brand will always be changing. I mean, I'm an old millennial, and I always think about Madonna, like changing so much. You don't have to land on something and keep it forever. And it can be just one thing to start out with. But yeah, it's easier than you think, but it is good to bounce it off of someone. If you don't schedule something with me, talk with a friend about it, talk with a family member about it. Like if you had to say what my brand was, what would you say?
I thought there was going to be some higher ed slander there, but you covered yourself really well. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, um, oh, this is a great question. This is a really good one. Someone wrote, as a retired person, retired dentist, I let my LinkedIn activity quietly die out. However, I'm engaged in a number of local and more far-reaching activities. All of a sudden, I'm getting notifications for others reaching back out to me. How do I jump back in when I've been absent from the LinkedIn world for quite a while?
Yeah, that is a great question. And my number one answer is just jump back in. No one is going to notice. No one is going to notice. So it's really funny to me because some people who post every day will announce something like, "Oh, I won't be here. I'm going on vacation. You won't see my posts." And then they come back and it's like nobody noticed that like nobody's really going to notice. So that's wonderful too, because it means that if you post something and you don't love it or it doesn't perform well, or you make a comment that you feel like was awkward or something, people eventually it's just going to die, right? Eventually all of it just kind of dies. But yeah, just jump back in. You don't have to say that you were gone. You can if you want to, but you don't have to by any means. And it might be nice to start commenting first and then jump back into posting. But I love seeing retirees on LinkedIn because you have so much expertise and experience to offer people. And I just really appreciate people you know, talking about their experience.
I'm gonna try to get through a couple quick rapid fire ones here so we can get to everybody. Rebecca asks, is AI useful for responding to comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think if you really want to respond to something and you need help and you're not coming up with something, you can use AI to like get the ideas flowing. I would stay away from like putting a long comment that is like directly from AI because people are getting better and better at kind of sussing out those things. And you just want to sound authentic, right? You want to have your own voice and develop your own voice. And the only way to do that is to use your own voice. And the more you do it, the easier it will be, right? So sometimes I check. I mean, sometimes if I'm going to comment on something, I will usually actually just Google something, but just to make sure I'm not like there's something I'm not aware of, before I comment on something. But yes, if that is helpful to you and it makes you feel like you can put yourself out there, absolutely. But try to wean yourself off of it eventually is a good idea, I think. And again, that's just my 2 cents.
Someone asks, I've never posted before. How do I start? Is it necessary to post?
It's not necessary to post. But so so I did my master's in literature at Northwestern. So the first thing that came to my mind was in media res, which is like that Latin term for when a novel or something starts in the middle of the story, right? And so you don't have to say like, "Hi, this is my first post on LinkedIn," right? You can just say, you know, as a graphic designer, as whatever you're doing, a problem that I recently came across was, right, like introduce what you're going to talk about, and then just tell a little story. Telling a story is one of the best ways to really engage people, but don't be disappointed if you don't get a ton of activity on that post, like right off the bat. Um, you do not have to post. You can just comment and you will see, you will start to grow your network and all of that just from that and connecting with people. But if you want to post, that's how I suggest just kind of talking about the problem, a hurdle you've overcome, a story, something, where you improve something, anything like that.
This is a funny one, so I'm gonna read this one because I've seen the memes on this. I don't know if anybody's seen the like, I just got married. Here's how this relates to B2B sales. And so Jeff, this is a great question. He has said, how effective is the growing LinkedIn strategy to post about a personal experience and then relate it to a business matter? I've heard a lot of people express frustration with reading posts that use that approach.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I honestly just think it's kind of like hit or miss, right? And it's like trying to go viral. And I know that some people think that they have figured out how to go viral on whatever platform, but I really don't think they have, especially because the algorithms change and all of that, and that stuff is changing all the time. I think that writing about your personal experience is great. I will occasionally post about my family. I always think about like boundaries, right? Like I will occasionally post about my family, but I'm never going to post like detailed information about my 10-year-old son, right? Like that's his business to eventually post or not post online, right? But I do think that people love engaging, like love seeing a little bit of your personal side on LinkedIn. I am not someone who's like, you absolutely have to keep it professional on LinkedIn because we're all full humans experiencing things every day. So I mean, I do think those posts are hilarious when it's like, this is how, you know, asking my wife to marry me is the way I did it improved my B2B sales or whatever. Like those are hilarious, right? Um, and I think those do get some response and engagement just because everybody's seen it now, so they know it's kind of like tongue in cheek. But I will tell you, one of the things that I sometimes post about that never gets any engagement is Stranger Things. I'm like a Stranger Things super fan, and I would love to start posting about Stranger Things, but like nobody ever engages with that there. So I find it really funny because I'm like, I guess I'm not either being funny enough, or people are like, why is she talking about this? But when all the USAID people were cut, I had worked with a lot of those people. I worked at the School of Public Health in my higher education background, and I made a post about how USAID people could be absolutely running these Fortune 500 companies because of everything that they've done internationally, and bringing people to the table who'd never been to the table before, and presidents of countries, and all this stuff. And that went viral. That was my first like truly viral post. And I mean, it was just like something I wrote in the moment. So yeah, I mean, post it and see how what the engagement is like. And um, eventually it'll just get eaten by all the other content. So you could just not worry about it.
Well, I know that we're approaching 1 o'clock, and I see. I'll just sort of summarize some other things that people were asking about, and again, encourage all of them to reach out to us. What would you recommend to
Sure.
somebody who has experiences in journalism covering all types of news because they don't have the same like expertise categories that you mentioned? Any advice for how to counter ageism, removing dates of degrees, not saying like XYZ years of experience? Do hashtags matter? Thoughts on premium membership? Best times to post? I mean, there's just so many phenomenal questions, and thank you everyone for staying engaged with us. Please do feel free to reach out. And like I said, I'm going to include not only this recording, but lots of links to what will hopefully be helpful content as well. So thank you again, Anna Kate. I want to thank you. You are a veteran of the career webinars series. We always love seeing you back. So
Love it.
thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Go Cats.
Thanks.